Hey, what's up everybody? If you're new to my channel, my name is Luigi and I'm a recent graduate of the University of Southern California and I'm currently in the middle of my med school application cycle. For those of you that have watched my videos before, you might notice that the background is different, and that's basically because I'm not at home anymore and I'm back at my apartment near USC. So you guys might be wondering, why would I go back to my apartment with all the things going on in the world right now? And that's my segue to our topic for today, which is the gap year. So right now for my gap year, I'm basically working as a medical intern for two doctors, and the location of their private clinics is just really far away from my home. So that's why I decided to move back to my apartment, because it's way closer there. But yeah, I could go on and on and on about all the little details and all the things that I do for my gap year job, but I'll save that for another video. For today, I just want to talk about the general concept of the gap year. When it comes to applying for medical school, students have two options. They could either apply right after their junior year, which means that during their senior year, they're going off for interviews, and then they're also waiting to see if they're going to be accepted and attending medical school right after they graduate. But what's happening more commonly today is that people are applying after their senior year, which means that they have a whole year after graduating to basically go through the process of interviewing, filling out secondaries, and waiting to see if they get accepted into medical school. So that's why it's been called the gap year. Many people ask what you should do during your gap year, but from all of the advisors and med students that I've talked to, they basically all say the same thing, which is you can do whatever you want, but as long as you're able to relate it back to medicine and you're able to talk about it during your med school interviews. This means that the options out there are endless. I know people that are currently working, some people are doing research, some people are filling up their volunteering hours, but there's also some people out there that are just, relaxing, enjoying life, traveling. So, you can do whatever you want, but as long as you're able to talk about it during your interviews and to know the value of what you're actually doing. So now that we have a general sense of what the gap year actually is, let's go over the pros and cons. So first, let's go over the pros, starting with number one, which is taking a break from school. For the past 4 years, you've basically been working your butt off trying to get the best grades, trying to do volunteering and research all at the same time, just so you could qualify as a good candidate for medical school. So with all that in mind, if you enter medical school right after that without a long break besides your summer, then you might encounter burnout, or you might just have bigger problems at hand. So it's better to sometimes take breaks, and that's what the gap year is for. The 1 year break could let you explore other things out there in the world before you commit yourself to going back to hardcore studying at med school. You can also use this time to find out other passions that you may have, find out other relaxation techniques. You just have more time for yourself and to basically focus on self-care before you go back to the intensity of school. Next, we have number two, which is the financial benefits of taking a gap year. Throughout the past 4 years of hardcore studying, doing volunteering, doing clinical research, and studying for the MCAT during some summers, you barely have any time to basically find a job. And when it comes to med school applications and 4 more years of schooling, it will add up to a lot of money. So this 1 year break you could use to basically find a job that could help pay for your applications, to at least decrease the load or the amount of debt that you may encounter once you graduate from medical school. The third benefit that I've been seeing more often is that people are using this time to improve their application. So this might seem like it doesn't make sense because, as I mentioned previously, you're applying after your senior year. But the gap year also counts because a lot more medical schools see that students are taking gap years, and of course they're going to be asking about it during their interviews, and also take a look at what the student has done during that time. So this could come in many different forms. One way is to take post-bac classes or pursue a master's degree, which I know is kind of counterintuitive with what I said previously and just the overall idea of taking a gap year. But at the same time, it does help your application because the other grades that you get after you graduate and after you submitted your applications will still be seen by medical schools when they ask for an updated transcript, or if they ask you for any updates about what you've been doing during your gap year. Other things that people do, as I mentioned previously also, is to basically catch up on volunteering hours, catch up on research hours, and basically just fill in anything in that pre-med checklist that they might not have been able to do during their regular undergrad years. And the last benefit from taking a gap year is it basically gives you the time to self-reflect. So this concept could be seen in two different ways. The first is, since you're away from school, away from academia, just doing whatever you want, maybe pursuing other passions of yours, you might end up realizing that, you don't want to go back to school and maybe you want to pursue another career goal. But the alternative to that is being away from all those things makes you realize how much you love medicine, and it reminds you of why you decided to pursue medicine in the first place, which could reignite your passion and give you more energy to basically start off your medical school and the rest of your career. And one last pro, or kind of like a bonus pro, because I feel like this concept encompasses all of the other pros that I mentioned before, is you basically have more life experience. And with more life experience, there's a lot of benefits. You'll have more to talk about during your medical school interviews, but the more important thing is you're basically going to be more prepared to take on the challenges of medical school and of being a physician. So now let's cover all of the cons of taking a gap year. So let's start with con number one, which is something that I mentioned previously, which is you might end up changing your mind. I don't necessarily consider this as a con, just because the fact that you found your passion, even though you're leaving the path of medicine to pursue what you actually want to do, it's still what you want to do. So it's still kind of a positive. But in the terms of being a pre-med and wanting to become a physician, it's a con because you're technically switching paths away from what you originally wanted. So now moving on to con number two, which is the financial aspect of taking a gap year. I know that might sound contradictory to the pros that I mentioned before, and that's because you could see it in another way. In the pro that I mentioned before, I talked about using the gap year to basically work to earn money so that you can help fund yourself all throughout medical school and the application process. But another way to see it is by taking one gap year, you're basically prolonging the start of your career as a physician by 1 year. And that could translate to basically losing 1 year's salary of working as a physician, which is a lot of money. So with this con and pro, it's kind of whether you see the glass as half full or half empty. You could see it as, oh yeah, I'm working to help fund for my application and to also help decrease my debt throughout medical school because of how much money I've earned throughout my gap year. But on the other hand, you can also see it as, oh, if I just waste my 1 year of gap year, even though I could earn enough money to help fund for my schooling and for my application, I'm gonna end up prolonging the beginning of my career by 1 year, and I'm just gonna lose a lot more money just because physicians earn more than what I could possibly work at during that gap year. And the last con that I could think of is basically some people just feel like it's a waste of time. There are those people out there that's known what they wanted to do since the beginning, have worked their butt off to be the best applicant that they could be. And that's why they feel like taking a 1 year break is a waste of time, because they know for sure they want to become a physician and they know that they're a good applicant already. So why would they take 1 year to do something else when they already know that their main goal is to get into medical school? For example, at the beginning of my undergrad career, I knew for sure I wanted to become a physician, so medical school was definitely the goal for me. But as my college career went on, I encountered some problems, like some classes were just really, really hard. I've also felt that I was starting to get burnt out by all of the activities, the extracurricular activities that I've been doing alongside my studying. And yeah, that just really sucked. And the last thing is basically my confidence in myself during sophomore year was not the best, and that's why I ended up switching into convincing myself to take a gap year. After weighing all of the pros and cons, I basically realized that it was a better decision for me to just slow things down and try to improve myself as an applicant instead of just rushing straight through and trying to get to medical school as soon as possible. And if you ask me if I regret it, my answer would be no, I don't. Because I believe that taking 1 year off from school is a good thing. Just being able to refresh yourself before you go back into the difficulty and the hustle of just being a medical student, I think that 1 year break will be good to have before you go into that. And even if you don't feel the same way, where you see that taking a 1 year break could make things harder for you once you get into medical school because you're not in the groove or you're away from the basic daily habits of going to school, then you could push yourself and pursue maybe a job or pursue more schooling during that gap year to keep yourself in that groove too. And at the same time, you're improving yourself as an applicant. But for me, the biggest benefit that I've had from taking a gap year is it basically allowed me to have more time to improve myself as an applicant. You know, I didn't need to rush my MCAT. I didn't need to rush all of the hard science classes and compact them all in my first 3 years. And I was able to spread out my extracurricular activities at a pace where I'm able to better manage it. So, yeah, that's the biggest benefit that I believe is available when you take a gap year. And yeah, that sums up my talk about the gap year. So if you guys watch my previous videos, you'll see that I've been saying the same, motivating quote at the end of all my videos. But I'm gonna try something new and just basically start inputting different motivational quotes. So I hope you guys like this one. I hope you guys enjoyed that little quote. But yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. And if you guys enjoyed my content and want to see more, especially that gap year video that I'm planning on making, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And if you guys found this video very informational and very helpful, make sure you hit that like button too. And yeah, if you guys have any questions that you want to ask me, you can comment down below and I'll be sure to get back to you guys. So thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you guys on the next one.